but let's move on. Chicago Bears. I think we all know Bears are the imposter, right? They are the imposter. These guys took a pretty big shellacking from the Rams. The Rams came to play and put it to them. And now the Bears, while still holding control of their division, it's still, I still don't believe it. I think they'll get worse. Cleveland Browns. This is a team that's at another crossroads and where they're at and where they're going as a team. I think they're right at the cusp of being able to turn a corner. They need to string a couple more wins together. That beat down from Pittsburgh. Hey, get over it, move on. They beat Cincinnati. You got a little confidence back. Now, it's time to try and press forward because they're going to have another showdown with Pittsburgh, and they better be ready for the second one because ain't nobody trying to hear that shit if they ain't. They still the Browns if they can't beat them the second time. Colts who quietly went 4-2. Don't know that I care too much about the Colts being as their division foe, but Phillip Rivers has proven some people wrong. I mean, he hasn't been perfect, hasn't been like great or nothing like that. But they've strung some things together. They're 4-2. We'll see how it plays out. The Rams obviously just got a big win against the Bears. This is a team that is starting to, they're starting to pull it together. Jared Goff still looks like crap. Don't think he's really the guy that they thought he was going to be when they handed him $100+ million. But he did a decent enough job. He had a 108 QB rating against that game against the Bears. The Bears defense was just out there forever. Wasn't going to work for them. Number 10, we got the Bills. The Bills beat the Jets. That was another game that shouldn't have been very close, but they're kind of licking their wounds in Buffalo after that loss to the Titans and then to the Chiefs. So they're really they were just looking for a win. They got one, and the next few weeks are going to be important for them. Number 9, the Cardinals, another team that I feel like is starting to may have found the fire at the right time. They beat the top dogs in their division. They beat the Seahawks in prime time. It was an overtime win, yeah, but shoot, I mean, that was a battle of the past versus the future. The past and the present, I should say, versus the future, because Russell Wilson is still a beast. But they should have won that game. They didn't. And now that has given some new life to these Cardinals. This franchise believes in itself right now. The fans believe in them. And I think that, I think they're going to be contending. When it's all said and done, it's going to be them trying to topple the champs in their division to take control of it. Who knows if they'll win or lose, but it's going to be, I think it'll come down to them. New Orleans Saints, 4-2. They beat Carolina. They're holding on to control. They're starting to right the ship. When Drew Brees can throw the ball further than 30 yards more than 5 times in a game, then he's having a good week. So why take away from that? Number 7, Titans, 5-1. They just lost to Pittsburgh, lost a close game, made a nice comeback, couldn't get it all the way over the hump. Tennessee obviously still in control of the AFC South. I think that this is one of the all-around. I think this is one of the most sound offensive units in the NFL. Now they are missing Taylor Lewan, the left tackle, towards ACL. He's out, but I think over a few weeks that they'll be able to kind of patch that up and get consistent play from their tackle spots or their left tackle spot to try and cover up that gate, that hole that he leaves on their line. Number 6, Tampa Bay, 5-2. Tampa Bay had a good win against Vegas. I think this is kind of the other side of what we all thought about with the situation with Bill Belichick and the Patriots. A lot of people were thinking, who is it? What is it? What came first, the chicken or the egg? With this, it's who is the reason for the success, Brady or Belichick? Because they both showed up at the same time. But which one is the reason why? Because there were valid arguments for both sides. This is the reason why it's Belichick. This is the reason why it's Brady. They both had valid arguments, and I think we're slowly beginning to see one side gain the advantage in being able to proclaim that they are the reason that the other was successful. Tom Brady started this season miserably in Tampa Bay, well below our expectations. I mean, if we had huge expectations to begin with. And this week, from week 3 onward, we've seen Tom Brady pull this team together better and better and better and better and better. And, this game against Las Vegas was no slouch team to deal with. This was the team that took down the Chiefs. And Tampa Bay won that game 45-20. Tom Brady went for 369 and 4 tuts. Tom Brady's looking good. He's looking like time is chasing him. He ain't chasing time. Rob Gronkowski is starting to get some play out there. Gronk is getting some work. And now they got Antonio Brown. Well, damn. Looks like these boys could be a threat for real if Antonio Brown doesn't destroy the team. I wouldn't expect that he would. I think I'm going to give Antonio Brown this one last opportunity to show and prove that he can be a responsible adult long enough to finish his NFL career. Let's see what happens. I think it's a 50-50 shot, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt this season. He knows he can't come in there and mess nothing up. If he messes it up, his career is over. He knows that. If he messes this one up, mark my words. If he messes this one up, if he messes up his time in Tampa, his career is over. His career is over. Nobody wanted him. They had an entire offseason to decide what they wanted to do with him. Nobody wanted him. Nobody wanted him. So, if he doesn't take advantage of the situation at hand and take care of what he needs to take care of on the field and off the field, it's going to be over for him. And that's going to be all she wrote. And we're going to talk about stories about how he could have been the greatest receiver of his era, but, and I know there's a few guys out there who I can already say that for right now. Number 5, Seattle Seahawks. Ooh, that was a tough loss. But it's a loss that I think they can get over quickly. I think it's a loss that they've probably already moved past. This is a team that understands what's at stake. This is a team that understands how to win. This is a team that knows who its leaders are, and it follows its leaders. And regardless of, the mistakes that Russell Wilson made in that game, he threw an interception that almost got returned for a touchdown. We all saw it. And just to kind of speak to, in a way, the kind of respect that his players have for him, his teammates have for him, DK Metcalf, sprints 100 yards down the field to chase down the mistake that Russell Wilson made on that play. That's the kind of belief that these players have in that team. And that in and of itself tells you, everybody's going to talk about the memes of, oh, well, look at the speed that Metcalf has. Look at the hustle. But why is he hustling though? Why? Not just because it's the right thing to do. It's because in every situation that this franchise has dealt with Russell Wilson, he has had the back of his teammates. He has had the fortitude of a leader, of a general, and he has been in the field performing with them for years. Every player that comes in there that buys into that culture in Seattle understands what this guy puts on the line each and every week. So they will put everything they have on the line for him each and every week. That is the mark of a leader. Him chasing down Buda Baker was in part his dedication to having his quarterback's back even when he makes a mistake. Russell Wilson had given up on trying to catch Buda Baker. He gave up on it. And he was even surprised to see, zoom, there goes DK Metcalf, full speed, chasing him down for his leader. That's how much they buy into each other, and that's why it doesn't matter where these guys are in the power ranking. They're going to be near the top as so long as they have number 3 leading them, they'll be near the top. They lost that game, but this is a team that I'm telling you, this team is they're out there. Their championship pedigree through and through. Number 4, Baltimore Ravens. You know, Baltimore has been quietly doing their thing. They got the bye week, but they've been quietly doing their thing. They just added Yannick Ngakoue. You know, this is a team that's getting ready to make a run because, you know, of all of the top teams, of all of the top 5 teams in this power ranking, this one is the quietest, I would think. This is the quietest 5-1 of the top teams in the NFL. Because I think the fact of the matter is, and this is my opinion, we don't believe them right now. I don't believe them. Even at 5-1, I don't buy that they're a championship contender. I don't buy it. I don't. They know why. They know why I don't buy them. They know because this is the same show we saw last year. This is the same show we saw last year. You guys' schedule, you guys' strength of schedule isn't even in the top, isn't even ranked near the top of the league. But this is the same show we saw last year. This is a team that looks great. They look great, but they're missing something. They look great, but they're missing something. And we were enamored with Lamar Jackson last year, rightfully so. The dude was the best player in the NFL, and he was, you know, he kind of transcended his position as a leader on that team. But this year, no, something's missing. It's not the same kind of, it's not the same energy. It's not the same kind of dominance. It's not the same kind of high octane Baltimore just football that we saw last year. I mean, in a way it is, but in a way it's not. There's something missing. And I think that we know that regardless of what their record is, we need to see what happens in the postseason on the first game before we can buy in. For me, before I really can buy in, you guys got to prove to me that y'all can win with a good record when it really matters in the playoffs, because you didn't do that last year. And now there's a little bit of doubt that's seeped into me about you guys. So Green Bay, this is a team that, you know, this is a huge week for them. They got to bounce back. They have to bounce back. Can't be having another game like they had last week. And I will, you know, hey, maybe it was an anomaly. We don't know. Tampa Bay went up and down, up in a whole shit. And they needed to bounce back. Now, 35-20 against Houston. Is that really a bounce back? Yeah, y'all won by 2 scores, but I'm not convinced that that's the game that tells me you guys have got your minds back right. I just don't see it. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it. So we need to see what happens. Oh, they got the Vikings this week. Well, the Vikings, that's a division matchup. I expect that will be a much more competitive game maybe than the Vikings have played all season. But that win against Houston, I'm iffy on that. Kansas City at number 2, 6-1. They're back on track. They came back in a big way. That is how, and of course they blew out Denver. But this team reestablished their focus, reestablished their motivation, reestablished everything they want to do after they lost to Las Vegas. They reestablished themselves. They held themselves to a higher standard. That's what champions do. So good to see that they do what's expected when they get knocked down to the mat, is that they come back with championship medal, and they've been on a bit of a run since. And our number one Got to give it up. Pittsburgh Steelers, 6-0. They're number one. They earned it. They're undefeated. Nobody's beat them. So it doesn't matter how much you hate them. Doesn't matter how much you don't care for them. You got to recognize they got that goose egg next to their in their loss column. No losses. 6-0. This is a team that's playing lights out football. They're playing clutch time football. They're playing big boy football. They're playing Big Ben football. I like what they're doing. I like what they're doing in Pittsburgh. I think that, again, it just speaks to the culture that's been instilled there for decades. Decades. So let's go through this real quickly to end this stream. For a good portion of Sunday's matchup between the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers and unbeaten Tennessee Titans, it looked like the road team was going to win in a rout. The Steelers led 27-7 and looked like the best team in the NFL by a wide margin. The Titans were able to make a game of it and almost sent the game into overtime, but comeback came up short. The Steelers moved to 6-0 ahead of Week 8's AFC North showdown with the Baltimore Ravens. Whoo, that's going to be a big game. There were a couple of causes for concern in the game. The Steelers were held under 100 yards rushing, and Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger threw 3 interceptions. Yeesh. But when a team has a defense as formidable as Pittsburgh's, the offense doesn't have to be flawless. Playing a Titans team that rolled up points and yardage with ease a week ago, the Steelers held the Tennessee Titans to just 292 yards of offense. And just a side note, I am working on my breakdown of the Tennessee Titans offensive line in this game against Pittsburgh. That should be ready and baked by Friday for you guys. So make sure you check out for that. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified as soon as I drop that video. But I'm actually doing a breakdown of Tennessee's O-line play in this game because I think that there were a lot of little issues that Tennessee had on their O-line in the run game particularly that kind of cost them in way of being able to keep some drives going. Pittsburgh did a heck of a job of being on the field. They kept Tennessee's offense off the field for like 17 plays. Almost an entire quarter. That was a good game plan to run with for the Steelers. It worked for them. But to continue here, it says running back Derrick Henry, who entered the week 7 as the league's leading rusher, had 75 yards on 20 carries. Pittsburgh's pass rush harassed Tannehill with regularity, amassing a pair of sacks and half a dozen QB hits. Steelers have earned their status atop these power rankings, but this week's matchup with their arch rivals will pose another stiff test. Typically, when discussing the best team in the league, the topic veers towards an explosive offense, exciting quarterback play, and/or stingy defense. While some of that is true with Pittsburgh's case as the only remaining undefeated team, the reason behind the Steelers' success is much simpler. They are easily the most physical football team and simply bludgeon opponents in the trenches. It's awesome to watch. Well, being as that they are an undefeated team, I won't argue against that sentiment. Pittsburgh is one of those franchises that's prided themselves for decades on their physicality, on being a physical team that just overpowers their opponents with their will and determination. But of course, in 2020, the Steelers, after a couple years of kind of, tailing off a little bit with a lot of injuries, with Big Ben going down, getting rid of disgruntled players like Le'Veon Bell, these guys have kind of revamped themselves and brought themselves back into the picture as a contender that we knew that they would probably be based on, just the history that this team has. And Pittsburgh is number 1 in the power rankings, and that's for good reason.